Since 2015, Special Assignment has been investigating alleged corruption on a table grape farm called Nirwanda in the fertile Hex River Valley. It should have been one of the success stories of agricultural land reform.
This valley is prime land, and in terms of its production, it's viewed as the platinum of the country, because it contributes about 18% to the GDP.
Instead, Nirwanda has become a symbol of land reform's failures.
We have people in power who just presses you like this. You cannot express your experiences very well. You cannot talk the language that you know best.
Nirwanda falls under the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform's proactive land acquisition strategy. This is a policy whereby the department buys farms and leases them to beneficiaries in order to assist emerging black farmers to make the farms profitable and self-sustainable. In 2012, the department purchased this 39-hectare farm from Quickvest, a shelf company for a powerful Dutch multinational called the South African Fruit Exporters, or SAFE, and its BEE partner, BONO. On July the 25th, 2013, a farming cooperative called the Big Five, consisting of a veteran activist, financial manager, agronomist and administrator, was awarded beneficiary status on this farm.
The dream was to have a successful farm, a model of black excellence in the valley.
When we came to this farm, all five of us, we had our own different experiences. Others, like me for instance, I worked for the Department of Agriculture for 12 years. So coming to here, to the farm, or whichever farm that was, I knew that I was going to continue with my skills, and I was going to teach people that things that I know that maybe they do not know, or share the knowledge from each other.
But almost 6 years later, there is no lease, no government funding, and no dividends from the exported harvest.
We're still struggling here, and we keep on struggling because of the truth. All that we want is for the truth to come to the fore.
But what is the truth behind the alleged lies of land reform against the backdrop of the politically explosive process to amend the Constitution to allow for land expropriation without compensation, and in the build-up to the 2019 national elections?
Currently, there's the discussion on the land issue, which is a big matter. Some of them are making it a voting football.
And political rhetoric is at odds with reality. Multiple investigations show that the biggest culprits of land reform corruption are government officials. A damning report recently released by the Special Investigation Unit reveals fraud and farm scams on 148 farms amounting to billions. The former Rural Development Minister himself, Gugile Nkwinti, has even been implicated in dodgy farm deals for politically connected comrades. But this represents just the surface of the cesspool that has tarnished agricultural land reform.
We've ground to a halt with the land reform program. It's just not working on the current model. And I think the Nirwanda case really epitomizes a wider problem in land reform, which is the state going up around buying up farms and then saying you can have the farm, but oh no, you can't get a long-term lease, we're going to get somebody else to farm it, then they're accountable to us, not to you, and then people are left in limbo.
Professor Ruth Hall is from the University of the Western Cape's Institute for Poverty, Land and Agrarian Studies. She has been appointed to a 10-member advisory panel on land reform established by President Cyril Ramaphosa.
The big policy questions remain. Who should get land? How? Where? When should we pay compensation and when not? Who should be benefiting? what kinds of models of land reform, and how is this actually going to achieve some of our bigger goals as a society, which is to reduce poverty, to reduce inequality.
So how is this scenario playing out on Nirwanda? In order to get government funding, beneficiaries have to take on an agribusiness as a strategic partner or mentor. The Big Five say they were forced to take on SAFE and BONO as strategic partners, but government policy dictates otherwise.
The policy says that we must make the choice, but they want to force somebody or some strategic partner upon us, and that's what we cannot allow.
And as this email circulated within the department in August 2012 confirms, SAFE and BONO were imposed on the Big Five by the department. When the Big Five challenged the lack of transparency, they were stonewalled by both the department and their so-called strategic partner.
We also called for them to present us with the financial statements and all this kind of things, but they just refused.
Another thing that you must understand about BONO and SAFE, they don't explain anything. They just come in, do what they want, and they just ignore everybody.
A small number of strategic partnership companies have cashed in on land reform. The same companies are actually moving across the country and mopping up land reform projects.
SAFE was established in 1997 by Dutch nationals Anton de Vries and Irvin Boland. SAFE's holding company is in the tax haven of Mauritius. Through its so-called BEE partner, BONO, which was formed in 2007, SAFE has earned scores of lucrative contracts on state-owned farms countrywide. The CEO of BONO is Evans Nirwanda.
BONO is just used as a black face, maybe to get black people like us so that they can have the business. But the big business, I believe, it goes to the overseas company.
Since 2005, Dutch bank FMO has been a shareholder in SAFE. UFF, an asset management company established by former SAFE founder Irvin Boland, also has a substantial stake in SAFE. UFF is a partner with Old Mutual's Future Growth Fund. Among their investment portfolios is South Africa's Government Employee Pension Fund.
South Africans need to be asking questions about how financial institutions are becoming more and more embroiled in land reform in quite dubious ways. I, for instance, want to know, is my pension fund actually profiting off of dodgy deals which are taking over land reform funds using public money and shafting the beneficiaries?
SAFE and BONO declined to be interviewed. UFF and Future Growth insist they have no involvement in state-owned farms.
It's very hard to actually find that information out because there is no transparent process of understanding the relationship between these companies, the shelf companies, the BEE companies, the financial institutions, and the capital that's coming in, both from public sector and private sector.
In 2016, an explosive forensic report was released that was exclusively exposed by Special Assignment. The report found that SAFE and BONO were allegedly in a corrupt relationship with officials in the department. The report recommended criminal charges be laid against officials and the company. It calculated that SAFE and BONO owed the farms millions. It also recommended SAFE and BONO be investigated on other state-owned farms. SAFE and BONO subsequently exited Nirwanda in late 2017, leaving the farm in ruins.
Individuals who are politically connected are getting lucrative contracts from the state to take over land reform farms and farm them with state subsidies. So they're getting free land plus state subsidies to farm on the state's behalf. The people who are ostensibly signed up to be beneficiaries don't control those processes. They don't have oversight of the finances and they don't receive dividends. In this sense, it's not land reform.
Unexpected merriment on Nirwanda during Christmas 2017, even in the midst of despair. When SAFE and BONO exited Nirwanda in September 2017, they allegedly left behind a fortune in unpaid bills.
A year ago, the farm stood still for about 6 months without any work, without electricity, without water, and especially without work for the workforce. And on our own, we went around to appeal to some of our people that we work with for some food parcels so that they can carry on and have something for Christmas and their kids, you know.
The 4 remaining members of the Big Five also approached a local farmer, Boetie Kriel, to assist with the 2018 harvest.
We hope that we only get this year what is put in to get it back. And if we can achieve that, it will be fine.
The crop wasn't of export quality, but could be sold to local retailers. Yet soon after the 2018 grapes were harvested, because he didn't get a contract as a strategic partner, Boetie Kriel also left the farm.
The problem, here was the department, because when he came in, we asked the department to sort of regularize us, regularize him, so that there would be accountability at the end of the day, but that didn't happen.
But why has the department allowed this once flourishing farm to fail? Even in early 2017, as the forensic report confirms, while SAFE and BONO was still on the farm, the harvest had deteriorated. The drought might have played a role, but entire vines of quality cultivars had also been removed and never replaced, further reducing the harvest.
Last season, I think we produced about 90,000 cartons, but this year, less than half of that. And for me, that looks terrible, and it tells you that a lot has been done wrong. It could be deliberate, we don't know.
And although the fruit was being exported, the farm and beneficiaries received no dividends.
If you look at what happened at Nirwanda, if you look at the monies that came out of the crops here, Bono and SAFE would always say, no, we gave the money, to the department. The monies from this farm have been channeled into pockets, and officials have benefited. And that is why, we are sitting here fighting, with a bone that now seems to have no meat, because the meat has been eaten by the officials.
The department did not respond to Special Assignment's requests for an interview. But during a previous interview conducted in 2015, Deputy Director General Jacques Pfeiffer had admitted that there had been a profit for that year. But where is the money? And why is it not being used to settle outstanding bills and to pay the workers their wages?
The situation is very dire. It is now more than 3 months that we've been without water, without electricity. We can take it, but the workers cannot take it.
We have been on the farm for many years. For us to be like this today is not right. We are human beings, yet we have to sit in darkness. We have to pick up wood to make fire, because there's no power. What can we do? We have to find work on other farms to put bread on the table.
We depend on the state because we do not own the farm. It's owned by the state. So if the state leaves us just like that and just throws us in the lion's den so that anybody can just come in and have a piece of meal that they want, because that's what happened.
The farm has also been vandalized, and it is now unlikely to produce a healthy harvest for 2019, if any harvest at all.
When I went to visit Nirwanda, what I saw was very distressing. Firstly, what was clear is that incredibly valuable vineyards were withering and dying. This is years worth and tens of millions of rands worth of capital investment going down the drain. But there is no production underway. What we found is that the group of beneficiaries, now 4 of them, are living on the farm desperately hoping that the situation can be resolved. But they don't have a long-term lease from the state. They don't have any production support. And in fact, what I was struck by is that as a group they have quite extensive skills and experience that are relevant to this project. So they don't necessarily need a strategic partner. What they need is proper support.
For several years, the Department of Rural Development has had its own bitter harvest, as demonstrated by the staff protest outside the Western Cape office in March 2018.
We want change. The state of this province has degenerated. We are not meeting our targets. We are not delivering services adequately and effectively. We are not following proper procedures that are in the demand management plan of the department. Projects are not implemented.
Special Assignment reached out to the department for comment. We did not receive a response.
There will always be external forces that are able to come between, because the rule and divide, it's always there.
On Nirwanda, there have also been deep divisions between the farm workers and the Big Five. In 2014, former Minister Gugile Nkwinti introduced a controversial policy called Strengthening Relative Rights of People Working the Land, by which farms would be shared 50-50 between workers and commercial farmers.
That's their global plan, that we should share the farm at 50%. And we would say, right, we cannot actually share what we do not have. We are not greedy people, and we know that when we came here, we knew that there are people who have been here on the farm for ages, and that we've got to share, you know. But in a situation like this, we cannot be equal.
The recapitalization policy under which the Big Five were approved does stipulate security of tenure for farm workers, but not 50% equity. The policy is also supposed to train emerging farmers as managers.
There must be a hierarchy. There must be somebody who gives directive, who takes responsibility to run the business. That's what business is all about.
For the workers, getting 50% of the farm profits also amounted to 50% of nothing.
Nothing. We have no dividends. All that we get are our salaries that we work for every day. But we have received no other source of income like dividends from SAFE and BONO. Nothing has been built or developed as it was supposed to be in the business plan. And everything they bought for the farm, they took back.
The government officials who pretend to be supporting the farm workers, who are using them, they tend to say, we are the bad ones. And also, according to them, they say the farm workers, they are at the top of their agenda, as they are the people who are supposed to be taken care of. But practically, it's the other way around. Because right now, they are not working, they are sitting in a farm that is dark, and then where are the government officials who would pretend to be really sympathetic to them?
So we are waiting for the department to tell us about the investigation, but we don't have any answers.
The department's overtures to the farm workers in 2014 must also be examined in the context of the Dubious farm workers' strikes between 2012 and 2013 that almost crippled agriculture in the Hex River Valley. The origins of the strike were on a farm called Kierbushkloof, a farm managed by SAFE at the time. The multinational had reduced wages and the workforce, igniting the protests which rapidly spread. SAFE has denied responsibility. But as our ongoing investigations have uncovered, SAFE and BONO have allegedly been involved in dodgy deals all over South Africa, like on these farms in the Eastern Cape.
We've picked up a pattern which I call farm flipping, which is where big corporates start to buy up farms, they then sell them onto the state at inflated prices, and then they set up a BEE holding company, and then they get the farms back from the state for free as strategic partners.
And as this email demonstrates, the department wants BONO back on the farm and even gives the empowerment company advice on disguising its role.
BONO is still lurking out there, you know. They're using BONO's business plan.
In BONO's 2014 business plan, it advocated for a percentage of the rebates received from the export of the Nirwanda grapes to develop the farm workers' creche. We first visited the creche in 2015 while SAFE and BONO were in charge, and the conditions were appalling. We visited it again this year to see what, if anything, had been improved.
That was written on paper, but it never sort of got implemented. And ever since BONO was here, this creche never changed.
The conditions were worse than ever, making a mockery of early childhood development and farm worker empowerment. So what does the department have to say about this?
Whenever they come, they go to the farm over the road there, and they do not even care as to what is happening here about the children of the farm workers.
But shared adversity has united the beneficiaries and the farm workers.
You know, the farm workers have actually have been our trainers more than the department or the so-called strategic partner who is supposed to take care of that role. We come with our own experiences from the book part of it. They have their own experiences from working the land, the vines.
And the Big Five have now instructed a team of attorneys to charge the department, SAFE and BONO, with theft, fraud and malicious damage to property.
We don't want to be seen as antagonists, you know, towards the government. That's number one. And to us, it's very important. But if we are pushed into a corner where, you know, we can't resolve issues, you know, amicably, then we'll have to go to court.
We applied for this farm and it was given to us through a legal process. And we feel that we are fighting for what is rightfully ours.